Here's to whiskey kisses, the peaty taste of sin.
Greetings, whiskey folk, and welcome back to Drinking Out Loud. My name is Adam Bradshaw, and I am here today for the official Whisky Folk Unbottling of Blanton's Gold Edition. So, not a week goes by that we don't get someone coming into the store and asking, do you have any Blantons? It's one of those whiskies which just is perpetually sought after. Everyone wants Blantons, and not everyone wants Blanton's Gold because a lot of people don't even know it exists, but this is the next step up, and those that know it exists want it. It's quite something, and it's quite something that we get a very limited allocation of. Very, very, very small quantities. We're talking like 9-10 bottles available every year to sell, because we also want to crack one open. This is a rare treat and something that ordinarily in British Columbia you would have to enter a lottery for, or you would have to line up overnight for a ridiculously long amount of time to be able to be in a chance of being able to purchase one. Not here. We randomly drop it into a tasting. That's right. If you were at the Whisky Folk Showcase that was on, what's the date today? It's the 17th today, so it's the 18th of July. Then you had the opportunity to get one of these Blantons, and much better odds than any online lottery without having to wait overnight. Plus, you got to actually try it, and that's we're going to be trying this exact bottle. I'm going to be opening a bottle right now, trying it right here in the studio. Let's go. All right. So, it's weird that it comes in a box. I'm not sure I like the box, to be honest. Like, with a bottle as unique and interesting as the Blantons, I kind of like seeing the actual bottle itself rather than a box, but hey, it stops it from getting damaged in transit, and for that, I'm very grateful. The finest bourbon in the world comes from a single barrel, and it is never blended with whiskey from any other barrel. Bold statement. This is why Colonel Albert B. Blanton first bottled his private reserve bourbon nearly a century ago, and that's the way Blanton's is bottled today. It is a costly, painstaking way to produce bourbon, and for bourbon's peak maturity varies from barrel to barrel, and only a master distiller can determine the exact moment the whiskey has extracted enough flavour from the wood. Thus, he vigilantly monitors each barrel until it is aged to perfection and deemed worthy of the Blanton label. That's why our bottle carries no age statement, just the hand-marked information that you see here. And that's why Blanton's is to bourbon what the finest single malts are to scotch, and the rarest cognacs are to brandy. A sour mash whiskey of a body, bouquet, and character unequalled by any other. Blanton's is available in limited quantities at select stores. Like the Strath! Alright. So. which letter did I get? I'm not sure. We'll find out. So. Oh, the holy hand grenade of Blanton's. Look at it go. It's such a unique bottle shape. I love it. So, one of the other things about the maturation as well, so it's Warehouse H. I believe the gold comes from the same. Yeah, Warehouse H. Which was built in a hurry after the Prohibition was repealed in the United States in 1933. And they built it out of metal because it would be quicker to erect. And so things age differently in metal warehouses. In fact, we know that very well here at the Strath because we just released a local whiskey from Fermentorium at Phillips down the road, which was matured in a metal warehouse of sorts, a shipping container. And it's 70% alcohol. Weird things happen when you mature things in a metal housing. In fact, the maturation site and the distillery of where I used to work at Bakery Hill in Australia had a metal roof. I know that because it was Australia, and that was a poor choice for working conditions. Bloody hell, it was hot. Yeah, I distinctly remember stirring the mash tun at like 4 o'clock in the morning because we had to do everything overnight because it was unbearable in the daytime. It was unbearable at night, to be honest. And thinking that we were behind schedule because I thought the sun was coming up over the horizon and you could just kind of see some light coming through the little windows. It wasn't the sun, the hill was on fire. That's how hot it was. There was forest fires at night crawling over the hill. Anyway, Blanton's. So yeah, legend has it that after after Colonel Blanton himself hired his legendary protege, Elmer T. Lee, in... I don't know what year that was. I didn't write it down. Never mind. Legend has it that Elmer T. caught him sneaking drams from the honey casks, he would call it, from his favourite warehouse in H. And that's why in 1984 they started barreling what was at the time the first ever commercially available single barrel bourbons. And I find that interesting timing because that was a year after the S&WS was founded in 1983, which famously was really championing single cask scotch. So I don't know if it was one of those things where, like, maybe Blanton's caught wind of what was going on in Edinburgh at the time, or maybe it was one of those things that happens quite often where the same idea happens in two different places at the same time, completely uniquely to each other. What was there was a famous thing in mathematics. Differentiation happened in two different places from two different people at the same time, completely unrelated to each other. Sometimes that just happens. It's kind of interesting when it does. All right. So what we got here, this was dumped on either the 1st of February or the 2nd of January, 2024. Which way around do the Americans do it? I forget. 1/2/24, whatever that is. From barrel 1334, Warehouse H, of course. That's the only thing that's not written on here in a gold Sharpie. And it literally is a gold Sharpie. That's really fun. I love that. On Rick number 44. So if you're collecting the specific Ricks, then this is 44. That's interesting. There must be a sticker somewhere. Or did it slip past them? On the box, maybe different? Huh. So I'm fairly sure that this is illegal. And I'm sorry if I just cost Blantons a lot of money for having to make new labels. I'm fairly sure in BC. So it says the ABV, right? But it says it's 51 and then has half, like 1/2, the symbol for a half percent. I'm fairly sure it legally has to be a decimal here in BC. Either way, it's 51.5 ABV. So what's that? 103 proof. Oh, it's actually written right above it. Could have just looked. 103 proof. And that's 5 ABV higher than the standard Blantons. That's one of the things that makes the gold special. Smaller release, gold horse. Does the regular one have a gold horse, or I think the horse is a silver in the regular one? It's been a while. It's higher proof, therefore more concentrated flavour. Don't know if it's older. Might be. It always feels like it might be a little older, but that might just be, I don't know, in my head. All right, let's crack it open, shall we? Let's have a look. It's got these little pull tabs that are always fun. I always feel bad doing this. I feel like I'm going to screw it up every time. There we go. There comes the wax off. Came off in one thing. I think last time I did this, it like cracked into like 5 or 6 pieces and was a bit annoying. They must have changed their production methods. Came off in one. All right, and off comes the horse. Ah, lovely. So which letter we got here? What does it say, the letters? I forget. A, there it is. We've got the A. If anyone's looking for an A, I can trade you an A. It's a golden A. Actually, I should talk about the horses. So why are there horses on it? So you don't have to be from Kentucky to be a bourbon. That's a commonly misunderstood idea. However, likelihood is that it is from Kentucky. 95% of bourbon, I think, right now made in the States, which is the only place you can make bourbon, is from Kentucky. And these guys are very proud of where they're from. And they want to showcase how proud they are by displaying another Kentucky legend, the Kentucky Derby, which is why the horses are on there. And there's 8 to collect. They each have a different letter spelling out the name Blantons, which I didn't realize until recently. There's 2 N's in Blantons, so there's 2 different N's. So I don't know how... There's probably, like... I'm not deep into, like, bourbon internet culture, but there's probably amongst collectors, like, ways to describe the 2 different N's. It's like, I think one of the horse's left leg is in front of the right or something. If you know that, I'd love to know if there's actually... I bet there is. I bet there's, like, a nickname for the 2 different N's. But this is A. Nice little A. I'm gonna... Always feels awkward as well, because I feel bad putting the horse down on its side, but I also don't want to put the cork on the thing. I usually put the corks upside down. Can't exactly put it upside down. That would be even weirder for the horse, I think. Yeah, and the horses haven't been around for the whole time. I think around the turn of the millennium is when they started putting the collectible horses on the tops. The Union Club here in Victoria has one of the displays where you can buy a display to put your horses in. I don't know if they still do those. Oh no, they do. If you collect them all, you can send them in to get mounted. I learnt that in January when when the Master Distiller came to pay us a visit. Yeah, it was at the festival. It was awesome. Oh, yeah, that's a good bourbon, isn't it? Like, Blanton's is an interesting thing because people make such a massive deal out of it. It's so sought after and collectible, and it's one of those what I refer to as the crotch shot whiskies on the internet, where people like show off that they managed to get a bottle by taking a picture of it on their lap in the car outside the liquor store with a wearing a fancy watch and like showing what car you have as well. It's stupid is what it is. I wonder how many of them actually open and drink the bloody thing. Anyway, but the reason it's so popular is because it's really good, and people forget that. And a lot of people, like, I feel like, underplay it as well. They think it's going to be bad because it's popular. And that's sometimes the case. And I have to admit, older bourbons I'm not generally a fan of, and they have their fans, and I'm not going to decry that. But this is just, if you like any kind of bourbon, this is a bloody good bourbon. If you like bottled in bond bourbon, that kind of ABV, if you like Grandad Bonded, which is fantastic, phenomenal whiskey. This is going to scratch that itch. It really is. Good, high proof, good, incredibly strong flavored bourbon. So what am I getting here today? Clove-studded orange. A little bit of like shaved wood, not like sawdust. You know, it's not like fine and dusty. It's like that weird coming together of both old and fresh wood notes. You know, where like you've got like a fallen, you're whittling, like you're peeling like layers of wood, and you're getting the outside, the bark, the slightly damp wood maybe, and then you're peeling back the layer and getting that nice fresh wood underneath. It's got that nice mix. A little earthy. And then some brighter sort of apple orchardy kind of notes as well. It's one of the pitfalls I fell into, like, a little earlier on in my whiskey career, I guess. I thought I didn't really like bourbon because I was finding them to be all quite similar. But I've grown out of that now. I really do enjoy bourbon. They are a narrower set of flavors generally than a single malt. Not always. Like, these single cask bourbons can be almost as diverse as a single malt. But when you're working with a narrower set of flavors, it kind of highlights some flavors that you wouldn't normally see highlighted. And like, the restrictions breed creativity almost. You know, your brain gets triggered to go in different directions. I'm getting like fruit leather. Like a fruit roll-up kind of a thing with a little touch of licorice. Yeah. This is just as complex as a good single malt. Like it says on the thing. Just as complex as a good single malt or a cognac. Yeah, from a primarily Scotch drinking perspective, that is the concentration of flavour and the depth that I always look for in a bourbon, and I'm sometimes sorely disappointed in. That is a connoisseur's bourbon. It really is. There's a lot happening there. Almost, I'm getting this like umami, almost like seaweed, but without the sea part of it. I guess weed. Yeah, weeds don't taste like that. Actually, on that, root beer, dandelion and burdock. An unsweetened concentrated root beer. Interesting. Yeah, that's really good. It really is. Do yourself a favour. If you're lucky enough to get a bottle of Blanton's, don't leave it on the shelf. Open it up, share it with friends. It's what it's meant to be. It's not whiskey until it's shared. It's not bourbon until it's shared. And I really look forward to sharing this with my friends in the Whisky Folk Whisky Club here in Victoria, BC tomorrow, and letting 8 lucky people pick up a bottle. Yeah, there's none available. Sorry, they all sold out at the tasting. The tasting hasn't happened yet, but I'm that confident in saying that. And in the very, very, very slim chance that it didn't, I'm going to be putting it up to our Strath Premium members first and foremost. Give them first dibs on anything left over. There's not going to be any. The crazy thing is, we're discounting it because it's a featured whiskey, and this isn't any different. We don't want to be one of those places that you see online that people complain about as calling them whiskey museums, where they overprice things that are rare just because they're rare. We want whiskey to be shared. We want whiskey to be opened. We price it accordingly. And in fact, so regular price $147.74. Remember, that's Canadian dollars. And remember, we're in BC where the fees and taxes are quite high. So if you're watching this from outside and you're thinking, you just said you weren't going to overcharge people. Don't worry, there's the going rate here. It's a great price. 10% off, it's $132.97. So that's actually a chunk cheaper than the government stores where you had to line up overnight to be able to be in with a chance of buying a bottle. So yeah, thanks for being a Whisky Folk member, and thanks for coming along, and hopefully some of you managed to pick up one of these wonderful Blanton's Golds. I look forward to being able to get more, but if you aren't able to get a Blanton's Gold, we do have the next best things. As well from the Buffalo Trace Distillery. I didn't even mention this is from Buffalo Trace. It's from Buffalo Trace, if you didn't already know. You might not be able to get this, but you can right now on our web store pick up the E.H. Taylor, the small batch, and the Eagle Rare, and we have a little bit of Weller as well. So do not despair. Go to strathliquor.com. We ship anywhere in Canada. And there's no bottle limit right now as well because we've got a decent allotment. We might put a bottle limit on per customer as our stocks get depleted. But yeah, if you want some of the other rare, not quite as rare, Buffalo Trace whiskies, all yours. Fire ahead. But thank you for joining me on Drinking Out Loud. Thank you for digitally sharing this Blanton's Gold with me. I'll see you on the next video. Sláinte mhath.